Hello everybody and welcome back to the Two Norries podcast. As always, I'm joined by my good friend Timmy Long.
Hi everyone.
And Roman is on the decks, and this week the topic is gambling. And we've been looking to have somebody on that has have experience of a gambling addiction and that's done well today. So I'm delighted to introduce Owen Coyne from Youghal. How's the form?
Alright lads, not too bad, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for agreeing to come on the podcast.
No bother.
I seen an article during the week on the Irish Examiner.
Yeah.
So I know a small bit about you, but for those who know nothing about you, who are you and where are you from and what was the crack growing up?
Owen Coyne, I'm from Youghal. Bit about me. Married with two young boys. Micheál and Donna, they're 6 and 2, and Jennifer is at home with the lads now. Growing up, pretty normal childhood growing up, like it was myself and my older brother David, and there was my mum and my dad. David was about 18 months older than me, so we were quite close, you know, and very normal. Like, my parents were young when they had us, and all is grand, like, but they separated when I was about 7. And like, you know, like, they just weren't getting on, and in fairness to them, they were, as I said, they were young when they had us, and, like, you know, if they weren't getting on, they made a decision, and it came from a place of love, that instead of having one unhappy home, let's have 2 happy homes. And in fairness, that's what I had growing up, you know. I split my time equally between my mum's and my dad's. With my brother, we spent 4 days here and 4 days there. You know, and very, very normal. Got, you know, had the best of everything. Never wanted for anything. Never wanted for love. Never wanted for, you know, a bike, or, you know, any new
Just
thing.
normal things
very
that
normal
kids like to have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you know? And
What's it like growing up in Youghal? Because, you know, Youghal is like the Canaries for Norries, like. And my idea
until the summer comes.
My idea of Youghal is like what you see on Neighbours on the telly, you know. But we have, like, was time spent on the beach, or was it just something that you take for granted when you're a Youghal?
Do you know what? It's weird, like, loved the beach always. My dad had a horse and trap, and he used to bring it to the beach every summer. Like, he worked in the carpets, and, like, he'd take 2 weeks off during the summer, and he'd go to the beach, and he'd give the pony and trap rides, like, and he'd probably make more on his 2 weeks off than he did working in the carpets, you know. But we used to go with him, myself and my brother, and we'd bring a friend or two, and we'd bring a hurley, or we'd bring a soccer ball or whatever like that, and just spend the day in the beach. And all the Norries then would be handing over their £1 and £2, and we'd be cleaning them out.
Yeah, come that night, then when there's a lot of drinking,
Rob it back.
tell them to go back home.
He got cleaned in Gigi's.
I know, Gigi's, remember that, aren't I?
But yeah, it's like, growing up sounded pretty normal, safe, you know. You know, we've something in common. I'm a compulsive gambler as well.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 9 years now away from a gamble as well, and it's great to have somebody else on the show like that I can relate to as well in that sense. So when did the gambling start? Like, how young was it before you started to enjoy the gambling?
So when I was about 14 or 15, my brother worked in the Greyhound track in Youghal, and he was doing his leaving cert. Finished his leaving cert and he got an apprenticeship. So he was packing in his job at the Greyhound track, part-time job in school and stuff like that. And he said to the boss, "Oh, my brother there, he's just finishing his junior cert, he's going into transition year there, looking for a job, whatever." So it was grand, like, started working there about 10, 12, 15 hours a week, working on the race nights up in the judges box, you know, doing the photo finish and all that kind of thing. And then the day after race night, then you'd be working doing trials. People would come and trial their dog, or cleaning after the race night, all this kind of stuff, you know. So it was very harmless then. Like, you might have a euro on the tote or €2 on the tote, and kind of got into it then, like. And
you were 14 or 15
I was
at
about
that
14
stage,
or 15 at that stage, and like gambling on the tote for a minor wasn't made illegal until 2020. So like there was nothing wrong with that. Now probably I don't know if there was anything around me working there and the ethics around that, but like at 14 I didn't give a shit, like, you know. But yeah, got into it then very innocently and had a couple of winners there. I remember like one night I won 40 quid, another night I won 60 quid, and going home and your wages are kind of bumped up that little bit, you know. So it definitely started there, and then as the years kind of went on working there, I worked there from about 14 or 15 until I was 19, I think. But I was about 16 the first time that I ever kind of, in the back of my mind, kind of thought there's something going on here, you know. We used to collect our wages at the start of the night, going in on a race night and a Friday night. And I went in anyway, and about 100, 150 quid, I can't remember. But started the night about 7:30, and then by 10:30 I was walking out of there and the penny left, you know. And like for someone who's 16, like living at home with their mum or dad and having 150 quid where you had no bills to pay, like probably going bushing at the weekend with your friends where you get a couple of cans and it's only going to cost you about 25 quid. Like, you know, you could buy new clothes and stuff like that, you know, like it was grand, like, but like for me to walk out of there then like at 16 or 17 and have no money for the weekend, like,
how did that affect you psychologically? Because I know like when you have a loss like that, particularly when you're 16 years of age and you have 150 euros in your pocket, which is a lot of money when you're that age, and then you lose your week's wages on a few bets, you know, that does affect your head mentally. How did it affect you?
I was kicking myself, like I was like, you're some fucking idiot. Look, you're what a tick fucking idiot, you know, going home. And like friends of mine were working there as well. Like when I started working there, I got a couple of my friends' jobs out there as well, and they weren't really into the gambling the way I was. They'd have a bet here and there, but like they'd take it or leave it, you know. So like I was like, why the fuck can't I be like them, you know? And I was really annoyed with myself, and kind of that's when kind of like the thing of like self-loathing kind of came in, you know. Really kind of beating myself up, going home, and like you'd have to lie then, you know, to your parents, like as to, you know, why you're looking for 20 quid on a Saturday when you got paid on a Friday, you know, or like saying to my brother who was doing an apprenticeship here, any chance of loan of a tenner there, you know, or things like that. And like, you know, they're looking at you and they're like, what do you mean, like, you know, it's those kind of things then, like that's kind of how it crept in. And I suppose the more that goes on, the more it progresses, the kind of the deeper you get into it, and the more it kind of exposes other problems, you know, and other maybe like insecurities within myself, you know, kind of brought them to the surface, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And even the lying, you know, the lying, the sneaking, and I remember you said there getting loans off your parents again, or your brother or whatever. Like you're actually getting a loan to go back to the bookies, to try to make back the money that you lost. You know, I remember one time there I was after get my full week's wages on a Friday. I was in the bookies. I think it was 400 or 500 euros at the time. I was in the bookies for about an hour, lost everything. I was devastated. I was supposed to go away for the weekend. You know, I had to go home to tell my mother I had no money for her wages. I told them I lost my wages. You know, and I done that a number of different times, you know. It was either, like, you start running out of excuses then, you know, from where the money's after going, you know, because you can't tell them the truth of it, because if you tell them the truth that you lost it in the bookies or wherever else you lost it, you know, they're going to be on your back then watching you, so you can't go to the bookies, and that's going to make your gambling addiction worse off, so you have to protect where you're spending the money as well, don't you?
Or even like you might have to face the consequences, like, you know. And if you can make up something where you don't have to confront what's going on, like, then, you know, it buys you a bit of time, and it buys you that kind of, you know, And like, probably deep down, people know you're lying anyway. Like,
I suppose
you know,
you're looking for them to feel sorry for you as well, because
Exactly.
you're licking your paws
Yeah.
because you lost so much money. You're licking your paws. Last thing you want is somebody else to be giving you a load of shit because you're after losing a load of money.
Yeah.
You know?
And like, I don't know, but what I used to do then is like, I kind of know where to go in terms of who to give the sob story to. Every now and again, it'll be a different person. Like, you know, call up to my grandparents there on a Sunday. How are you getting on? Not too bad. How's work going? How's school going? And I didn't have too many hours now this week. You know, I only got paid €30 this week. Or, you know, I'd have a sob story there, and here, look, there's 20 there. Like, you know, and all those kind of things. Like the lying and the kind of manipulation that you do, like it's that gets magnified the deeper and deeper you get into it, and that's kind of how it seemed to spiral, you know. And
Sorry to interrupt you, but you know the dog track in Youghal. I'm curious to think, like, having a dog track in a town like that. Does it? You started gambling younger. Is it common for young people to use the dog track for a couple of euros for bets? Is that how a lot of people, like, what way is the gambling scene is Youghal, and do you think the dog track has a big impact on it?
Definitely, James. I think the dog track, like, I know lads who are in gambling addiction still at the moment, and people who I'm friends with and stuff like that, who I know started their betting life at the Greyhound track, you know. And like, it's hard to compare it to other towns because I don't really know, and gambling is so prevalent nowadays. But definitely, like, I know lads who have like been gambling at the Greyhound track since they were 9 and 10 and 11 years of age, you know. And
I'd say it's very hard to move away from the gambling when you've a big gambling hub next to your shop. Your local shop is next to the beach and public toilets, and it's just a big part of the town.
It's part of the culture, like, yeah,
and the social aspect to it as well. You know,
exactly.
the little group, the crack with the lads, the gambling, the tips.
Across the road from Perks then as well, like, you know. I remember there Friday nights, when we were about 14, like around the time I started working there, like, you know, a lot of the lads would have kind of hung out in Perks, in between Perks and the Greyhound track on a Friday night. Then there was like the steps up in Knockaverry where people would go bushing or whatever like that, you know. So it was all kind of the scene of where to be, like, you know what I mean. So like I think it probably has played a part in a lot of people locally, in terms of them spiraling into those kind of problems.
When did it really, like, at that age, 16, you knew there was a problem, you know? How did it continue from there then on?
It's kind of on and off, like, you know. There was times where I could take it or leave it, you know. And if there was different things going on in my life, like, I'd be able to take it or leave it. But then it was like gambling for me. It was like a fuck it button, like, you know. It's like self-destruct button. If there was something maybe that was kind of bothering me, or if I wanted to kind of get away from something or just block it out of my head, like, I just go to the bookies and, like, you know, just get into that frame of mind of blocking the whole world out and just like betting away and things like that. You know, if I felt like I was coming under pressure, you know, or like, what's the word I'm looking for now? But like, you know, if things are getting on top of you, you know, I kind of used the gambling to as an escape, and as I progressed from there, like, so when I finished school, it was affecting my schoolwork as well. Like, you know, I was kind of always, like, I was always good in school. You know, I was like, I was clever enough, like, you know, but I was never applying myself, like, you know. And that's when I look back on it now, like, I saw my brother in school who, like, wasn't the most, like, academic, but always, like, worked hard and was always spending loads of time doing his homework and stuff like that. And I'd be like in things like English class and stuff like that, like, I'd just be there and I'd fucking write down an essay and it'd be very good, like, and I'm not doing the rest of my homework, fuck that, you know. And I'd just go off and wouldn't bother doing, you know, putting the time and effort into it, like, you know. And like I was kind of just doing enough to get by. Like I was never doing enough to get on. Like I just like I kind of had this thing in my head where like I was like, oh, I'll just make money from gambling. Like, you know, it's like this. I don't know how I made that out, because I was always losing.
I'll become a professional gambler.
Oh, sure, I said that to myself so many times. Like,
never, a compulsive gambler can never be a professional gambler anyway. It's just it just doesn't work that way. You know
who's coming to my mind when you say that? Do you know Dan Bilzerian, the American? But you know, like he had this. He's very big on social media. Portrays this kind of he made his millions through poker, right? But it actually came out that he's actually been bankrolled by fucking people using him for publicity, and it all anyway came to a head recently, didn't it? He was found out that he was lying. Really, he didn't make any fucking millions from poker.
Jesus.
But like, if you were looking at that, you'll be thinking like, actually, you could make a living from this. But the reality of it is, no, you actually can't. You know?
No. Like a lot of people, they look at it as in like, how much did you lose and how much did you win? You might have a big win of whatever, a few €100, a few €1,000, whatever it may be, you know. But you're counting that big win as in the top end of everything, whereas nothing about the 300 you lost last week, the 400 the week before that, the 600 before that, the 7 before that. You're just thinking about the win, and next week that win will be gone because you're after spending it all. You're after putting it back into the bookies. That's the way. And the chase, it's the chase of the compulsive gambler. You know, I remember just winning money, then losing it, and then trying to win back what you lost. And that's what you're doing. You're chasing, and then you say to yourself, when I get what I started off with, or when I win it all back, I'll stop then. It doesn't work like that. You know, because when you're gambling compulsively like that, you're not thinking logically, and you're just losing everything on just anything at all you can bet on. You know, whether it was black or red on the roulette, whether it was virtual dogs or horses, it doesn't matter. You're going to try everything in your power to get that initial feeling of winning that good few quid, you know, back. It's it's like you're chasing that really strong endorphin kick that you got, but it doesn't come. Like,
there was a fella on Twitter yesterday, you might have seen it, he won 17.5 grand off 450 bet in England on horses, and he put up the docket now and all. Like, one of the comments on the Twitter then was this fella saying, be careful, he says, I won a couple of $100 grand off £35 and lost everything, house, marriage, job, everything after it, because the buzz he got from me, he threw everything back in, trying to get that, and he lost everything. So no matter how much you win, you're always losing.
It's not about the money, like.
No.
It's all about chasing.
It's the
dopamine hit, like. Like when I finished up working in the Greyhound track, I went to college and I was working part-time, and where did I get a job? I got a job in the bookies. You know?
Lovely. That's like me getting a job in the chemist.
but that is the fact.
I know.
It's so true. Like.
Yeah, I went working in the bookies, like, you know. But what I used to do then in the bookies, I used to see other people who had problems with gambling, and I used to compare myself to them, and I'd like show some restraint of, say, not backing virtual horses, and I'd say, no, they're the fellas with the problems because they're backing virtual horses. Sure, I don't do that, so I don't have a problem. And like, if they're way worse than me and they're not getting help, then I probably don't have a problem. So like, you know, and those kind of things, like. But like, I used to be going in there to the Bull Library inside in UCC, going onto the computers, like, and just looking at the form, whether it was soccer or horses or dogs. Like, I just like get up the Race and Post website, get up Paddy Power website, get up the Premier League tables, all that. I didn't go to college at all. I was enrolled in UCC. That's all. That's as far as I got. Like, I was just enrolled. I used to spend more time on the William Hills down on College Road in Galaby Street than I did like inside lectures, like, you know.
Took control of everything.
Completely.
So on,
completely. And it ruined that experience for me, like, you know what I mean? I was never into it, like, and it didn't matter what I was studying or what I was into. The gambling was always like high number one priority, like, you know. I remember there, like, Cheltenham, I think it was around 2009 or 10, and I was in college for the week, and like it was Paddy's week as well, so like everyone was out, and you know, like house parties and stuff like that, and then Cheltenham was on and everyone was gambling during the week, and I lost all the money I had for the week, and I had no college on a Friday. Now that's not that it mattered, I wasn't going to go anyway, but like I could tell my parents like, oh, I've no college on a Friday, so they asked me to work in the bookies for Gold Cup Day. So grand, so I got to spin home with one of the boys, and went into work and I had a £5 left like for the weekend, and I was like, I remember I was like, alright, I'll use €2 now to get something to eat. I'll get a can of Coke and a bar of chocolate. That'll keep me going for the day. And I'll bet €3. I backed 3 horses, and the 3 of them won, and they were like 8-1, 9-1, and 2-1, and I won like something like €330. And I went into the pub that night, like, and there was a good buzz after Cheltenham, and I was like buying all my mates. I was like, I'll get this now, I'll get this. I will have Jaeger bombs and all this, you know. And I was like, thought I was the man, like, you know, nothing about losing my fucking bollocks for the week, like, you know.
Like, look at the opposite scale of where you could have been that day. Like, you had €3 left. Like, you actually spent €2 on just providing food for yourself and kept the more money, the €3, like, for your addiction.
Yeah.
You know, that's how much of a whole.
That's where the priority of it was.
Yeah.
Do you know, like the €3 was top priority.
Yeah.
Do you know, eating and be able to sustain myself through like a bit of sugar and a bar of chocolate. Like it wasn't even nourishment, like it was just a bar, it was just sugar to keep me going for the day, like, you know.
Do you know, when you were comparing and contrasting your gambling with other gamblers, it's the same as drug addiction, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, do you know what, no, I'm using Coke and he's using gear, so I'm not too
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Or I'm only drinking the odd 1 or 2 bottles, he's drinking vodka, do you know, I'm grand. Or he's fucking, he's smoking hash every night of the week, I only has the odd joint. We always try to rationalise it, you know, and minimise it, don't we?
That's exactly it. You're just minimising it. You're lying to yourself, like you're validating your addiction, like you're validating what you're doing, and like it's just a fallacy, like it's just.
Do you know what there was a complete lack of back then though for like us? I was the same as that. I'd go on a bender for a week, maybe 2 weeks. I'd go off it for 2 months. You know, I'd go off it for 2 months because if I didn't, I'd been fucked out of the house, thrown out of the house, and you know, and I wouldn't see my kids or whatever I was doing, because there was a lot of damage being caused in between all that as well. I was acting out, I'd be in trouble with the guards. You know, I'd be at all sorts of shit, mad stuff with drinking and drugs and gambling and stuff. But if there was more education, you know, around it, you know, for example, my idea of an alcoholic or a drug addict was somebody that was living on the streets. You know, we used to call it back then, was wino. Remember wino? We classified the wino as the alcoholic, or somebody sat at a bar stool for 7 days a week. There's such a broader aspect. There's a context to what an alcoholic or a compulsive gambler is, or an addict, or whatever it may be.
And like your level of functionality as well. Like I was really high functioning. Like, do you know what I mean? I had built up this like persona of someone who was doing well. Like, you know what I mean? So like I was. Like for anyone looking, like my parents were like delighted with, like, you know, first child in the family to go to college and studying above in UCC, like, you know, proud as punch.
Did you make it through UCC or?
No, I dropped out after 2 years. It was actually 2 1 years. I went back and I repeated first year, but sure, like I was repeating it for, you know, I was only repeating it to keep up the facade, you know. But like I went into I was studying politics, and then I went in, I ran in like the town council elections in 2009, and I got elected onto the all town council. And then again, that was another persona of doing well, and like, you know, kind of it was like I had everything together, like, you know. And but like all the while all this was going on in the background, but like just going back to what you were saying, like, you know, you have this image of someone being a down and out and all this, like, but like I was really high functioning in what I was trying to portray to everyone to keep up the facade, like, you know. So like here I was studying in 3rd level, on the town council, local councillor, you know, getting on grand, you know, and all the while all this shit was going on, like.
Look at your life at like this now. This is what's going through my head at the moment. A lot of your energy, let's say 90% of your energy, was focused on your gambling addiction back then. You were still going to college. You were able to get on the town council through election from that other 10%. Imagine if you hadn't got this gambling addiction in your life, what you would have accomplished as a person, you know, and how much you would have been able to do for your town and your studies.
100%, yeah, it's mad.
It's absolutely crazy how much control an addiction has over somebody's life.
Set me back years, like, do you know, I'm doing things now that, like, I wanted to do, that I should have been doing when I was 18, 19, like, you know, and, like, back then I thought I had it all figured out, like, do you know, I thought I knew everything, I could solve every problem, but now, like, I just kind of keep learning stuff, like, do you know what I mean? I kind of, like, now I kind of have a different perspective of, like, I don't know enough, and I just keep learning and keep progressing and keep trying to better myself, like, whereas back then I thought I knew it all and I thought I had it all sussed out, do you know, and maybe that was the persona that I was trying to create, and, like, I suppose it was kind of like a way of blocking, like, out insecurities, and, like, I definitely had a lot of fears around, say, like, and I kind of learned this through, like, doing therapy and stuff. First of all, through the therapy that I did when I was recovering initially from gambling, but I continued on that therapy to this day, like, you know, like, fear of failure, kind of an inferiority complex that I always seem to have, and, like, how, you know, the root causes of all that. So, like, I know now I'm kind of gone off on a bit of a tangent into that stuff, like, but
you're not. That's very
all
important.
part of the story.
Do you know, it's all it's all part of the story, like, and it kind of, though they were all the things that were impacting me and what was going on in my head, and it was feeding into that press the fuck it button there again, and fuck everything and fuck everyone, and all you do is you go to the bookies and you just forget about all your responsibilities, all that you can do, and, like, do you know, if things get tough, you can just kind of focus in on this thing that's going to give you the dopamine hit,
Take you away,
and take you away, and it's like, and like, I suppose I don't know what it's like to be, like, a heroin addict, or I don't know what it's like to be an alcoholic, but, like, from stories that you hear, it's very much you're looking for the same thing, like, you're looking for escape, like, you know,
it's the escape. It's from the thinking, the mind. It's the exact same thing. You're looking for something to take you away from emotions that you can't feel, you don't want to feel, or thoughts you don't want in your head. That's why I've often said it on the podcast, and James can relate to this. That's why I always said drink and drugs saved my life, until they nearly killed me in the end. And a lot of people saying, what the fuck, how could drinking and drugs save your life? Drinking drugs took me away from all the thinking that was possibly going to drive me to maybe taking my whole life when I was a young child, a young person. It went from all that negative thinking and hatred that I had for myself from picking up the first drink or drug, and then, oh God, what's this? Where can I get more of this? Where can I get money for more of this? You know, to that.
Yeah.
That's what it does. That's how it saves your life. But then there's the opposite scale of it then, where it just nearly kills you. You're taking so much of the drug that you could OD, or you're drinking yourself so badly, your liver's failing, you know, you're losing your family, you know, your mental health is starting to deteriorate, all these different things. You know, actually, when did it all actually come to an end for you? Like, when what was your spiritual awakening, or your rock bottom, or whatever?
So, like, I moved to London at the start of 2013. So I met my girlfriend in 2011, and at the time I had actually given up for a while. Just kind of said to myself, look, I kind of like that, I'd never say, oh, I have a problem. I'd say, I'm just taking a break there for a while from this, you know. And at the time, I was in a really good place, and I met my girlfriend. She's now my wife, like, you know. I met her, but she had already planned to go studying nursing in London. So she was going, and we did the long distance thing for about a year. And I said, look, I'm not really enjoying being on the council. I'm not, you know, kind of, I needed to get out of Youghal, like I needed to get away. And at the time as well, it was just after the big crash and the recession was going on. There wasn't much going on. There wasn't many job prospects. I had dropped out of college. So I suppose getting over to London was a way of escape and all that as well. So I packed in the politics, and I moved over to London in 2000 and started 2013. She was already there a year. So when I went there, I suppose I was on my own as such. She was studying away, but I didn't really have any friends. I hadn't made any friends. So like any spare time I'd have, I'd just go down to the bookies. We lived in a flat which had two bookies either side of the flat. There was a Paddy Power and there was a Coral Bookmakers. So like I used to just spend a load of free time down there if she was gone off to college or away with her friends that she had made, and spent an awful lot of time, and it kind of spiraled from there, you know. And I suppose being away from home, then I didn't really have anyone to answer to. I had only one person to lie to. So like I was lying to her. Like there was one day I just took a day off work and went gambling for the day, and like she came home and how was your day at work? Grand, yeah, grand, you know. Those kind of things. And I was working in Paddy Power for a while, like, and a fella came in, and it was like an armed robbery, and so I quit working there because it fucking messed me up really. Like I was terrified, like, you know. So I took a bit of time off from there, and then I went back for like 3 hours, and I was panicking. And I was like, I'm not working here anymore. Rang the boss. I was like, oh, I'm leaving. So I got a temporary.
That was after an armed robbery.
It was after an armed robbery, yeah.
The bookies you were working
inside the bookies, Saturday morning, 8:30, fella come in, give me the fucking money. It's just like, no matter what, there you go, for 400 quid.
Do you want a tip as well?
Yeah, I know, yeah. He got picked up a couple of days later, and he got time and stuff like that.
That affected you though?
Did it, yeah. I remember they gave me 2 weeks off, and I was going back to work, and I couldn't sleep. And woke at like 6 a.m. I was like getting a panic attack and stuff like that. First time that ever happened to me. But that went on, and that kind of pushed me more into going to the bookies. Then, like going at the outside of the counter and spending every single penny I had. Like, and I remember there we were living in an apartment. I was like digging under the cushions looking for 20 pence to have a bet. You know, because I had just gotten like I went to like a recruitment agency and got a temporary admin job, just in an office answering phones and all this kind of stuff. So like I was just spending everything I had, and like it was coming up to the summer. Jenny was going home for a few weeks. I couldn't afford to go home, and I just kind of said that it was around like you know, the job situation and stuff like that, but like it was because I was gambling. So we were moving to a new flat. We were living in Deptford, which is down in southeast London. We were moving to North London with our housemates, two other girls, two other nurses that Jenny was friends with, and we were to pay a deposit for the flat. And I just lost all the money that I had for the deposit while Jenny was at home in Ireland. So she came back anyway, and I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? Like, what am I going to... I was like, I was just trying to think of situations to get me out of it, like, you know. And I was like, will I just get on like the Euro thing and just go to France, like, and just run away, and like no one will ever hear from me, like, you know. And you know, it's just like mad things going on, like thinking of different scenarios, like. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna have to tell her, like, I have a problem. I'm going to have to tell her that I have a problem. So she came back from Ireland, and
had she any idea at this stage that there was a problem?
No idea.
You were after hiding it that well.
Hiding it, yeah. No, and she still says it to me. She was like, I didn't know it was a problem till it was over. Do you know, that's how kind of high functioning I was around it. And like, it's different to like, that's the difference then between a substance abuse and something that's, or a substance addiction, and something that's like a psychological addiction. Because like, I could put a smile on my face and tell everyone that it's all rosy in the garden. So it took me about 45 minutes between me saying I have something to tell you and me saying I have a gambling problem. And that was, I remember, like, she was fantastic. She was really supportive, and like said, it's going to be okay. Like, we'll get it sorted. Don't worry about it. Like, you know, you've told me now it could be worse. Like, do you know what I mean? You could be dying, or, you know, she kind of was able to rationalise it a little bit for me. And she was a fantastic support. Like, she was amazing, in fairness. So I remember going to bed that night, like, in the sense of relief. Like, it was just like, it's like someone was after taking the weight of the world off my shoulders and putting it down next to me, and I could just relax, because I was going to bed previously and I was just like thinking, where can I get money now tomorrow? How much can I bet if I have £2 now? And I put out, if I back a 6-4 shot and an even money shot, right, that's a tenner. And I have a tenner then. If I get one more even money shot, that's a score. Scored 6-4 then is 50 quid. I 50 quid straight away. Do you know, my mind was just going 90 miles an hour all along. And then the next night I'd go to bed and I'd lose, and I'd be like, what a fucking idiot, you know, kicking myself again. So it was real kind of a spiral thing, you know. Yeah. So that was,
and just to remind people now again about that, it's not about how much money you have, it's the amount of control it has over your thinking and your life. The gambling addiction, isn't it?
Was consuming every thought I had. Like, it was like, and everything I used to do, like, it was all around, like, you know, if we were going somewhere and I didn't know, like, the area, stuff like that, I'd, like, my eyes would be going, like, where's the nearest bookies? Like, you know, I'd be after copping on to where the nearest bookies was, like, and stuff like that. And I was starting to bet online as well. You know, I use Betfair, and I was thinking I could be a professional gambler here now on Betfair, like betting in lane and all this stuff. You know, it's mad things I was thinking, like, you know. But so that was August 2013, but I didn't stop until January 2014. So, like, I gave up for about 6 weeks, and I started playing GA over in London as well, playing a bit of Gaelic football. And when I went out one night with a few lads, and there was a bookies alongside the pub, and I was like, I didn't have much money left, like, so I wanted to stay out for a few more points. So I was like, I'll go in and I'll try and back a horse and get a few quid, and I can stay out and have a few more points. So I did that. Then I kind of started getting more into it again, and again hiding it from Jenny, pretending that I wasn't betting. And it was the October bank holiday weekend over here, and a few of the boys from home were coming over to London. There was an NFL game on in Wembley, and they were coming over for the match. So I said, come over, stay in my place. We were after getting the tickets paid for all this kind of stuff, and I'll meet you in Liverpool Street, get the tube in or whatever. I'll finish work at 5 o'clock. I'll meet you at 6 o'clock. So finished work anyway, went down. I was waiting for the first fella. The first fella was working in Dublin, and he was the first fella to arrive. So I had about half an hour to kill, and there was Labrooks up. It was up on, like, it's like kind of like Mahon Point, the kind of wraparound on the first floor. I saw the Labrooks, so I was like, I'll go up there, sure, while I'm waiting. And I had about 150 or 200 quid to get me through the weekend with the boys, and we'd have a laugh, and, you know, and went up there anyway, and the space of the 45 minutes I lost every penny I had for the whole weekend. And, like, I'd already, like, told Jenny that I'd given up gambling, and I didn't want to admit to anyone else at the time that I had a problem. So first lad arrived, and he said, we'll go for a pint while we're waiting for the boys to come in from the Cork flight. They were due in like an hour or something. I said, no bother, it's a pub across the road. So I said, you'll get him in there, yeah? Yeah, no bother. So he got the first pint anyway. My round. I'm going to leave my wallet at home. Any chance of loaning 20 quid there until we get back to my place? Yeah, no bother. So I gave him 20 quid. Got home anyway. I said to Jenny, I was like, look, it was the end of the month. We used to get paid monthly. I was like, I'm a bit tight for cash now with the lads around for the weekend, and would you be able to help me out? Do you know, 50 quid or whatever, get me by for the weekend. Yeah, no hassle. And like one of the boys, I remember on the Saturday morning, then we were in my apartment, and we, after breakfast, and we were going out, we were going doing a bit of sightseeing or whatever, like, and one of them was like, sure, we might have a bet, we will stop off at the bookies and do the pools. And like, it didn't matter to them, like they were just occasional gamblers. It wasn't a thing that they had a problem. I was like, oh no, I don't gamble anymore, lad. And like the night before, I was after losing every penny I had inside my pocket, you know, and I was still kicking myself over that, you know. So that kind of went on for a few months, and then I remember we went home for Christmas, and like that, I was like borrowing money off my brother. He was home from Australia, and you know, asking for a loan of money and stuff like that, and asking, you know, my parents. Remember asking my granddad for a loan of money, and losing money in the bookies then again. And we went back to London, and about halfway through the month, I'd like £1 left for the whole month. And now we'd food in the cupboards and stuff like that, so I kind of knew, like, with all our bills paid, with our rent paid. So I went into the bookies on my way home from work on a Wednesday night, and I put on like a bet. It was like Man City to, I don't know, Sergio Aguero to score first, Man City to be winning at half time, and Man City to win 3-0. It was this outrageous bet, like, that was about, I don't know, 400 to 1, like. And your man, I wrote out the doc, gave it to your man, he gave it back to me, and I just looked at it and I just started laughing. I just fucked it in the bin. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done with this. Like, I can't put myself through this anymore. My head was just melted, like. So I went home to the apartment. The two other girls we were living with were there. Jenny was at work, chatting away to them. I was on the laptop, and like, just normal, like, you know. And I was like, got into GamCare. It was a UK charity that helped people with gambling problems. And I went onto the thing, like, and I was like, I typed in, I'm not sure if I have a problem, but this is what's going on. And I told them the story, and they were like, okay. They set up that I'd meet one of their counsellors to go through like an initial kind of an interview of what's going on. And then about 10 days between getting onto them on their online chat to me sitting in front of a counsellor and starting my recovery. So that's kind of the story of how it came to a head, you know. But like I remember digging under I still remember lifting up the cushions inside the apartment, looking for 20 pence to, you know, and it like seemed not like, it was like, when I think back on it, like, it feels like it was someone else. Like, it feels like I'm telling you about someone else's life.
It's the same for
an
addict or an alcoholic. They'll tear the whole house apart for a tablet or a bag or a bottle or whatever it is, just to take them away from that anxious feeling that they have, you know. So
did you go to treatment, or did you do therapy? Or
I did therapy.
It's called counselling.
Counselling, yeah. I used to do weekly therapy counselling sessions. And I said to my boss, I said, I have to go away every Tuesday, a half an hour early. And she's like, all right. And she was kind of looking at me, like, waiting for me to say, like, and I was like, look, I can't tell you what's going on, but I need to do it. And she just, that's no problem. So I told her about 6 months later what the story was, and she was like, no problem at all. No problem, you know. But I used to go, there was a place in Clapham Junction, their office, like really nondescript kind of a building, like you'd never know where you were going, like, you know. And I was very lucky as well, just to say that nobody knew me in London. I had the anonymity of going away and getting help, like, whereas like if I was living at home, I mightn't have done it, because I still would have been around, you know, people who were into gambling, or, you know, I would have had the same habits, whereas it was a lot easier for me. I was away from my parents. They didn't have to know about it until I was ready to tell them.
That's a good point. You know? What you made there is about hiding that you have a problem. That's a massive thing for Irish people, and it's not just for gambling, it's for drug addiction and alcoholism and stuff. People don't like being known as an alcoholic or an addict. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you have a problem with substance or alcohol or gambling or whatever it may be. It's becoming more out there these days, and it's, James, like, people are starting to talk about
definitely.
it
And
more.
like in the it's 7 years now, like, but about halfway through that initial, we did 12 weeks of therapy, and about halfway through, we were coming home for a friend's wedding, and I had a session at 4:30 on the Tuesday. We were getting the train out to Stansted to fly home, so I said to Jenny, I'll meet you on the train, we'll get the train out. And I remember I had made the decision that I was going to tell my parents and a couple of very close family and friends that I had a problem. And I remember being inside in the therapy session, like, and I just cried for the hour. Like, I was like, my parents and my family, they're going to think I'm useless. They're going to think I'm a failure. They're going to think I've fucked up my life. And I went through all those, and I was like really irrational things when I look back on it. But for me at the time, at that point in my recovery, I was thinking like those were the thoughts that were going through my head, you know, that I had failed, you know, and like,
you know, by telling them as well.
It killed me, like, you know.
Yeah.
But sorry, go ahead.
By telling those, your loved ones and everybody else around you about your gambling, I guarantee you, a lot of your behaviours previously would have made sense to them as well.
Exactly.
You know, you were able to explain yourself. They probably didn't know what was going on for you, but now you're after coming out and saying, listen, I have a gambling addiction. I'm a compulsive gambler. This is why I would have been lying to you. This is why I would have done this or that or whatever. And you know what? They would have said back, you know what? At least now we know why he was that way. I know where we have our son back because he's after coming out and he's after talking to us. So that's a massive point you made there is to come clean and tell your family. Tell your family exactly what's going on for you, you know, because they may need to know why you act a certain way or why you might have a certain behaviour in your life, because they haven't a clue, like, particularly around gambling, because it's something that you do in the background. You can either do it online or do it in the bookies or whatever.
It, like.
You know, there's no in your face something like describing what's going on, like a drug addict or an alcoholic. An alcoholic will fall around the place and their behaviours, whatever. Same with a drug addict, you know. With a gambler, it's a different ball game.
It's a hidden addiction, like, you know. And like, just going back to that day, like, I couldn't have been more wrong in their reactions, like, you know. When I told them, like, their support and the love and everything, the reaction was completely different to what I thought it was going to be and how I built it up in my head, like, you know. And I thought to myself, like, it can't, like, after that, like, I was like, there's nothing can be any worse than what I've gone through now over the last 6 or 8 months, you know. And it gave me that little bit of a, you know, it was almost like, I don't know, a suit of armour or something, for want of a better word, you know, kind of prepared me for anything else that I went through, you know. And it kind of helped me to open up more in counselling, and it was like peeling an onion away every week. I used to love going to counselling therapy sessions. Like, I was like, I can talk about this now this week. And, you know, like the first time I went to therapy, I came away and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about next week because I just talked about everything. But then you go and you delve more into it, and I still do it. I still go to therapy.
Do you go to GA or any of those?
I never went to GA, and it's not that it just, I found the therapy so good. Like, I really got into it. Like, I loved going. Like, I used to love a Tuesday afternoon. I knew I was finishing work that little bit early, and I just I loved it. Like, I still love going to therapy. I still find it life changing, like, you know.
Certain things work for different people.
Gamblers Anonymous might have worked for me at
the
time.
Let's talk about a few of those places that you got help. So are they around in Ireland?
There's no charity that provides the service in Ireland that they provide in the UK. So free at the point, like free counselling from a charity, it doesn't exist in Ireland.
For gambling. Okay.
Do you know? Specifically, GamCare is the charity in the UK. Okay. There aren't the services in Ireland that they have over there, you know. And again, I was very lucky that they were available to me at the time. But like, Again, if I was over here, I don't know if I would have had those services. You probably would find services, free addiction services in Ireland, but you'd have to go looking for them, and there might be some cost involved. But like, if there was a cost involved to me getting therapy at the time, I wasn't going to save 60 quid a week to go to therapy, because what I'd have done with the 60 quid a week is I'd have gone to the bookies. Do you know?
Yeah,
That's the beauty of Gamblers Anonymous then, like, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just a
That's
free
it.
service.
It's free
like.
service, and I know people who have gone to Gamblers Anonymous and they've turned their life around. Do you know? And there are loads of, if you like, I thought about going to Gamblers Anonymous when we moved back to Ireland at the end of 2014 to have our first child. So in the middle of my recovery, the first, we found out that we were having a baby, and that was a huge turning point as well, to kind of focus my mind. And it could have gone anyway, it could have gone either way. I could have gone and pressed that self-destruct fuck it button again, but I didn't. I was able to work through it with the therapy. I was very lucky, you know. But like that, there's loads of Gamblers Anonymous meetings going on all over Cork, all over Ireland. And if you just type in Gamblers Anonymous, you'll find yourself a meeting. So like, that's very important for anyone like that's going through a problem, or you know, they're listening to this or watching this and they think, fuck it, I can relate to a lot of what he's saying there. I have a lot of the same habits, like, you know.
Yeah, and you do a lot, like we've spoke before the podcast as well. You have a poem that is related to gambling, that you're gonna give to us there now.
Yeah, look, if we can just fast forward at the present day, because we're stuck for time at the moment. What are you doing with yourself today? And you, as Timmy said, you're a bit of a poet.
Yeah, so I'm working full time. I'm working in an operator here in one of the medical device companies in East Cork. My wife is nursing in CUH and looking after the two boys as well, keep us busy. And I write poetry as well. So I just set up my own website there, and I put my poems out in my social medias and stuff like that. So I kind of perform them in a spoken word rather than have them written down. You know, I prefer to kind of perform them.
And we'll link all your website and your social medias in
brilliant.
the description. But if you wanna close us out with your poem, about gambling,
I will, yeah, I will, if that's all right.
so take it away.
It's called Tunnel Vision, and there's probably a lot of it that even not problem gamblers can relate to, but a lot of people who are in addiction could probably relate to it. So, if I can remember it by heart there now. My mind overridden by a pure tunnel vision, this insatiable appetite that's never satisfied, the rush of adrenaline, risking everything, the roll of a dice, this crippling vice. They're under starters' orders, the dogs behind the traps, and as my breath gets shorter, there's no time to relax. I've got to get the money on, I have to place that bet. Then just as fast the money's gone and I have nothing left. But at any time I try to quit, I get the juice back in. And every time I recommit to that elusive win. And I tell myself, this gambling, it's just a means to an end. Then suddenly I'm scrambling in search of cash to spend. So when the ATM refuses me, I'll dig behind the cushions. This obsession, it abuses me, and I'm blind to repercussions. And from that haze, a fog descends and brings persistent pressure. I can't refrain or make amends, addicted to the pleasure. I don't know where to go from here. I'm in above my head. If all I owe could disappear and take this constant dread, 'cause I'm tired of the struggle, the endless scrimp and scrape, this unrelenting juggle, so desperate to escape. And I feel my mind eroding in this search for short delight. And I feel myself self-loathing as I toss and turn at night, where the thoughts turn to tomorrow, while I lay there wide awake, and I'll beg or steal or borrow, just to make the same mistakes. My mind overridden by a pure tunnel vision, this insatiable appetite that's never satisfied, the rush of adrenaline, risking everything, the roll of a dice, my crippling vice.
Excellent.
Brilliant. We just want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, which was a fantastic story. I could relate to a lot of your stuff. you know, and I'm sure James could as well in certain different ways, you know, because James, you never had a gambling addiction.
No, I never
But
wasted any money or wasn't on drugs.
you needed it all. You know, but you know, there's a lot of people going to relate to it. A lot of people that are going to think that they don't have a problem, but when they're going to listen to your story, they're going to look at their own lives a little bit closer. And see and question themselves. So thank you very, very much for coming on and sharing your story, as I said. And let's see where it goes.
No, thanks a million, lads.
If anybody wants to contact you again, James said your
social media, anyone that look, I'm not a counsellor or anything like that, but if there is anyone that, you know, might feel like they have a problem, I'll point them in the right direction. I'll signpost them to services that are available in Ireland. And, you know, there's like a gambling therapy app that's out there that you can get, you know. But just like before we finish, can I just say, like, I've binged on your podcast over the last 3 days. I've listened to 8 hours of your podcast.
Typical addict behaviour.
Typical addict behaviour. It's brilliant. Like, you're fantastic. You're doing savage work for your local area. I work with a lot of people. In my job, there's a good few people from up around Knocknaheeny, and they know who you are, like, you know, and they're saying, geez, you know, it's fantastic. It's so positive, such a positive outlook around your area and around you know, like, areas no matter where they are. Like, do you know,
because
like,
addiction permeates every social class.
It does.
And every neighbourhood in Ireland has people struggling with gambling and drugs and mental health and all these things. Exactly. So that's who we're reaching. We are Norries, that's the name of the podcast, but it's for everybody.
And like, there could be areas, there could be people living in South Africa or living in,
we have a South African lady that watches the podcast all the time, and
like,
we just want to I just say get well soon and hope everything is going well for you. So I just said I'd have to throw that in because she's always commenting.
That's unreal. But like, you know, they might have an awful lot in common with what you have to say, you know, whereas there might be someone living 10 minutes down the road from me who haven't a clue what you're on about, you know. So like, it's such a universal thing, but like, obviously it helps, like, you know, your sense of place and stuff all feeds into your podcast and the positivity of it all. But I really enjoy it, and thanks, like, I can see why it's such a hit, because it's so authentic, like, you know.
Thanks,
and it's really good. So
on the ball, thank you.
So I just wanted to say that before we finish.
Thanks a million. And just to finish up, listen, thanks again for coming on, and I'm sure your story is going to help an awful lot of people, even in Youghal. A lot of people are going to lean towards you, maybe a mother, maybe a husband, maybe someone, brother, whoever it may be. Listen, I'm sure you'll give them whatever help they'll need, just point them in the right direction. So that's it for again today. We just want to thank everybody that's listening to the podcast and all your lovely comments on YouTube and everywhere else. And thank you very much. So from me, goodbye and
see you later, lads.
Thank you.
Take care.